One of the best defenses that teams try to use against the passing game is the cover 2 defense. It's a zone defense that is designed to take away a lot of the short, easy passes that offenses bleed the defenses to death with. So really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and draw out the zones associated with cover 2 and how the defenses assign their players. So what we have here is a 3 receiver set. You have an X receiver, a Z receiver, a slot receiver, who I'm going to term the zebra, and that's what a lot of West Coast teams will call it. Doesn't matter what you call it, you can call it whatever you want. And then a running back, obviously, and a tight end. So you can run a cover 2 in a 3-down set or a 4-down set, but because most of you that are watching this will be part of our 7-on-7 leagues, I'm going to draw it with 4 down so that there'll be 7 players playing in pass coverage. And cover 2, obviously the 2 that is in the name of it stands for the 2 safeties that are going to be playing deep half in cover 2. That's the most distinct feature of cover 2, is that you have 2 players covering the deep part of the field and splitting it into half. So each player will have roughly, a little bit over about 26.5 yards. The football field is 53 and 30 yards wide, so each player will be responsible from the midfield all the way to the sideline if they're a safety. So as a defense, you generally want to have a couple athletic players there if you plan to play a lot of cover 2. The corners will cover down over the outside receivers in that way. Then you'll have someone covering down over the slot receiver, and because we have 3 receivers, we'll make this a nickel back. You generally bring in the nickel whenever you have a 3 receiver set, and because it's the slot receivers to the weak side, we'll call this the nickel will, which will generally stands for weak side linebacker, and then Mike and Sam for middle and strong. But then the Mike will just be a regular linebacker, and the Sam will be a regular linebacker. And these 5 underneath defenders will split up the underneath coverage into fifths. So the cornerback will take about 10 yards vertically and will take the widest part of the field, about a fifth of the field, really almost in half, between splitting the difference between the tackle to the sideline. And that area is called the flat. Okay? And then the nickel will take what's called the curl area, the area that's just inside of it. It also goes maybe 10 to 15 yards deep, so maybe just a teeny bit deeper here. And then the Mike will take over the ball. He'll have the hook area to both sides, so anything that is inside of this, the Mike will be responsible for. The Sam will have the curl area on the other side, and the cornerback will have the flats on this side. And what cover 2 is really designed to take away are these flat throws. When offenses are playing man-to-man defense, or when they're playing cover 3, the quarterbacks tend to have a lot of success throwing quick outs, hitches, and really nickel and diming the defense down the field. So cover 2 is going to have the corners play what's called cloud coverage, and that means that they are assigned to stop anything short. They'll let receivers run right by them as long as they're able to have their flat responsibility. So now that you see the zones here, I'm going to go ahead and erase this just so I can show you a couple things without all these lines in the way. Okay, so I'll go ahead and draw our alignment again. Okay, so each player's responsibility. The free safety, the strong safety are going to gain width and depth. They'll start out at about 15 yards deep. They can be as close as 12, but they don't want to get much closer than that because they have to be able to get back quick and stay deeper than the deepest. That's the rule for them. No receiver can get behind them. The underneath defenders will cover down. So if we were to have, and what that means is this. So let's say we come out in a 3-by-1 look where you have 3 receivers to one side, 1 receiver to another. You would cover over, even though they're playing zone coverage, you'd still cover over them so the offense can't just throw the ball on a hot route right now and get 10 yards. So now we make that the nickel Sam in that situation because he's to the strong side. We have a Mike and a Will and a corner. But however the offensive line's cover 2 is going to cover down, and the reason for that is this. in cover 2, or in pretty much any zone, you don't just want to let someone run right by you. You want to always put hands on the receiver and try to bump him off his route, widen him, or run him down in here, but don't let him get a clean release where he's able to threaten the weakest part of your zone, which is deep, because you only have 2 deep, and obviously you have 5 underneath defenders. So I'll put him back over here to the X's side, the weak side, and we'll change that back to this will be the Mike, and that's the Sam. So anyway, so that's their responsibility. Even if it's the tight end, the Sam wants to put hands on the tight end and prevent him from really stretching the field quickly, because that's what the offense would like to do, especially to cover 2, is they want to get down the field and force these safeties to have to cover a lot of field horizontally. And that's why the corners play a very important role in cover 2 defense. Obviously, you know, they're here to pick up anything coming to the flat, so, you know, if there's some kind of slant-flat combination, the corner will pass the slant off, and he'll take the arrow, and he's going to really try to cause a lot of problems for these flat routes. Or if there's a hitch out there, you know, he's not going to backpedal much. He's going to try to drive those short routes, and that's where you see a lot of interceptions that go back for touchdowns, is when a quarterback throws into the flat coverage against cover 2, against that clouded corner. Again, the term clouded corner means that he's taking away any flat throw. But because he's not helping out at all deep, there are certain things he has to do to help the safeties out, because he has to protect them. They have so much area to cover, especially in comparison to what he has to cover. So what the corners will do is they'll play an outside shade from the receiver. So if you can see here, the corner is lined up just a little bit outside where the Z is, and this corner is lined up just a little bit outside where the X is. Okay, and the reason for that is that they're trying to prevent an outside release. It's very opposite of man-to-man defense, where in man-to-man, especially on the outside, you want to force the receiver to the sideline, and you want to try to take away any inside move that the receiver might make, because you want to stay in between the receiver and the quarterback, so the quarterback can't deliver him an open pass. But in cover 2 defense, the opposite is true. You want to put hands on the receiver, and when he releases up the field, and try to push him into the rest of all your help. So you're going to stay in an outside shade. You'll generally cock your hips open. So if you know the camera is where the receiver is, and you know the quarterback is over there, I'm going to be a little bit in this direction with my hips turned this way, so the receiver really has a hard time getting around me. And as soon as he releases, I'm going to try to jam him off the line and push him into my interior help, whether that's, you know, my Will or my Sam. And the other thing that does, and the most important thing that does when you play an outside leverage, is that you don't allow the receiver to get width and depth quickly against your defense, because nothing hurts a cover 2 defense more than someone getting up to sideline quick and then sending another receiver down the seam. So by your underneath defenders getting hands on receivers before they get up the field, you're going to help your safety from being put in this bind where he has to cover 26 yards of field. And I don't know how fast your guys are, but even NFL guys, you know, they can't cover that, you know, by the time the ball gets there. So corners will really try to force this guy inside, which will make this a much tighter throw for the quarterback, and will give the safety a little bit more time to react. The other thing that corners do is, if for whatever reason the receiver does get an outside release, the cornerback will turn and run. He'll run with the receiver at least until the strong safety has time to make up, or the free safety, if it's on this side, has time to make up and get position to take away the streak route. The last thing I'll say about cover 2 is this. It's important that your underneath defenders understand that there's no need to stay in the flat if there's no threat. So say we have something like this and something like this. If the cornerback doesn't see anyone coming out to the flat, if he notices that the inside receiver is going up the field, then he can continue to drop back, and he should continue to cover what's there. There's no reason to stand in the field and cover nothing just because that's what it said on paper. However, once he sees a threat to the flat, he needs to recognize that, keep his eyes there, and come off the route and drive, the area that's his responsibility. The same is true for the Mike. If nothing is coming underneath in this direction, then the middle linebacker can drop and get depth. Who knows? He might even be able to get in the passing lane of a post, or that's true for the Sam linebacker. So they're going to slowly but surely gain a little bit of depth until they see some type of underneath threat and they want to drive on it. That's not to say they're going to be bailing at the snap of the ball. That's the safety's job. But they definitely want to look to get contact with the receivers, especially in that 5-yard zone, that's past the line of scrimmage where that's legal. They want to get contact with the receivers and force them, off of their normal route stems. So instead of just being able to run straight, they have to, try to find a way to move around the guy. And then last but not least, they want to continue to drop back and find, someone on the offense to cover until they see a threat that's underneath, that's where their responsibility is. Now, if a threat happens right now, like if the tight end were to run right over the ball, the Mike doesn't drop and look for something deeper. He immediately has to take his responsibility. Again, cover 2 is designed to put 5 defenders in the underneath zones to take away a lot of the easy throws for the quarterbacks and make his windows tighter. So I hope that was a good demonstration, helped you understand cover 2 just a little bit better. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. We'd love to be able to answer them in future videos. Thanks a lot.